Joining us in studio now, Executive Vice President and General Manager Nick Caserio. Nick, Happy New Year. How's it going?
Gents, good to see you. Happy New Year.
Yeah.
All right, here we go with a typical week, I would say, even though you have New Year's now. But after all the rigmarole of 3 games in 11 days, back to a typical work week. Probably good to have this and then the playoffs next week. You know you're in.
Yeah, look, we got 2 weeks in front of us. So first and foremost, the focus will be on Tennessee, kind of go through a normal week. Got the extra day yesterday with the kind of the bonus Monday, if you will. Tuesday, it was a normal off day. And then we'll finish out the week Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, travel Saturday, play Tennessee on Sunday. Have an idea probably who we're playing, when we're playing after the Tennessee game. So back to work, back to business, and that's where we are.
So I know we always talk about advanced prep. So in advanced prep, we know it's one of 3 teams. One of them we just played last week, or I guess that's what it is. One we haven't played this year. The other 2, trying to think, we played the other 2. So do you do advanced prep for all 3 teams, Nick, at this point? Do you wait until Saturday night to see what happens with the Steelers? How do you kind of go about the advanced prep for the playoffs?
No, it's a great question. You sort of have to start some of the work here a little bit, because what you want to be able to do is, after the Tennessee game, transition to whomever the next opponent is. So a number of the pro scouts will be assigned specific teams. So of the teams that we could potentially play, put together the advanced scouting report, and then the idea would be after the game on Sunday, whoever we think it is, or if it's definitive, then we'll just be able to get that information out to the staff. So when we come back, coming on Monday, we're sort of ready to go. Even though we haven't played them, we're somewhat familiar with some of the teams other than maybe LA. That's probably the one team that's a little bit of an X factor here. So, but other than that, we have to put a separate from the coaches and the playing preparation. We have to, from a advanced scouting standpoint, just put some work in place.
Yeah.
Coach Ryan sounded like he wanted to get back to the basics here. Let's play some good football. Let's get back to playing the game that we love and we know how to play well. You see it that way as you face Tennessee on Sunday?
Yeah, it's really a big summation of our season. We've kind of sat here multiple weeks, and we've played good football at times. Other times we just haven't executed, and we go back and look at the Tennessee game week 12. It was kind of, in some respects, a synopsis of our season. Gave us some explosive plays, turned the ball over a little bit. I think we were penalized 11 times. So just trying to minimize some of those bad plays. Tennessee played better than we did. We understand that this is a challenging opponent that has a number of skilled players in a lot of different areas. So focusing on Tennessee, trying to play a good football game, doing the things that are conducive to winning, putting ourselves in a position where we can go ahead and go out there and play good football as a team, which this time of the year, that's the most important thing.
We've had this here, Nick, before where week 17, I don't want to use the word irrelevant because any game is relevant, but it's not going to change seeding. We're in the playoffs. We want to be seemingly as healthy as possible. How much does that become a part of it? Like, hey, we want to be as healthy as possible. Yeah, we want to play great football, but man, we got to have the guys we need to be able to play that playoff game.
Yeah, every game takes on significance whenever it is, whatever the circumstances are. So fortunately, I've been kind of in this situation multiple times, and the last week, we've handled it differently at different points. So I think ultimately D'Amico has to do what, we feel is best for our football team. Yep. What do we think we need? Understanding, be cognizant if a player has a health issue or a concern, then maybe are we better off waiting another week or whatever the case may be. So in the end, we're going to need whoever is available to us this week and next week. Those are the players that we're going to win with. Can't worry about who we don't have. Yep. All we can do is focus on the players that we do have. So each week is going to be different. Each team is going to be a little bit different, and you just have to take inventory of where you are as a team and ultimately make the decision that you feel makes the most sense.
No matter who you face in the postseason, this is good prep. I know you want to be better at stopping the run than you were against Derrick Henry. You got Tony Pollard here, had a good game last time. He's a 1,000-yard back, so it's a good test.
Yeah, really good back. I mean, ran for 100 yards, over 100 yards in the first game. He's a 1,000-yard rusher, and he's really kind of a multi-purpose back because he's just not a runner. He's a very capable receiver as well. So good athlete, good with the ball in his hands, capable of making explosive plays because of his speed. So the run game will be important. I'd say this time of year in most games, like the ability to run the ball, stop the run, and cover kicks, like those are the things that you're going to have to be able to do in order to be a good physical football team.
Are you trying to sneakily steal my scouting report question?
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Like,
I'm sorry. Jeez,
you got
Johnny,
in there with it.
He jumped the gun.
I'm just
my last
saying.
mistake
It's kind of a
2024.
quasi-scouting report because we've already
All
played
right,
them.
so
But
let's do it.
we can
Let's
go
do
back.
it. Let's start in
sure.
there. Week 12, we got a chance to see these guys. We didn't see Tajay Spears, and he was part of the mix the past couple weeks and looked pretty good doing it. How have they changed from week 12, Nick? I know it's not gone exceedingly well for them. There is talk about them playing both quarterbacks, Mason Rudolph and Will Levis. What's changed most about the Titans in the scouting report that you see?
Yeah, the big thing, it's always personnel related more than anything else. Schematically, like from the start of the season till now, the run game, they do a really good job. Coach Callahan squared, they both do a really good job in a running game. They ran the ball effectively and have two really good backs who are capable of gaining yards. And their ability to create explosive plays, like we saw that, with Chig on the big play there in the third quarter, whatever it was. And then Ridley is always a factor. So they do a good job schematically in a running game and then creating some explosive plays as well. They've turned the ball over a little bit, probably more than they would like. So the ability to take the ball away and on our end control the football or take care of the football is going to be important. But it seems like they've kind of solidified the offensive line, which is a little bit of a moving part. And I think Latham's kind of been the one constant there from the beginning of the year. They've had a number of young rookie players who have played well for them this year on both sides of the ball. But they present challenges offensively because of their skill more than anything else.
All right, what about this streak you have going on the road in the division? Because you have to go back to what, 2021?
2021.
When the Texans last lost an AFC South game on the road. Is there anything to that? I know it spans different coaching eras and that kind of thing, but you've been here the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, each week it's really one game at a time, 1 week at a time, and just doing enough that particular week. So you can't necessarily worry about, streaks are streaks, but all streaks are made to be broken. It's ultimately about playing good football. So that's what it's going to take. So can't really get too caught up in that. But we've talked on this show, everything starts with a division. So we're in a position, fortunately, we continue to play football because of what we've done in the division. So we think we just want to go out there and play good football against a division opponent, who beat us in week 12. So we just want to try to play better football and make sure we're doing the things that are conducive to winning this week against the Titans.
Nick, how have you seen Tavondre get better and better each week? As a guy obviously big, there were some questions about conditioning. Oh, he's not going to be able to make an NFL because he can't play that much. It's almost as if he's got in the NFL, and it's really not bothered him. I think he's played every single game. What have you seen from the big fella, and how tough is he to account for just because of sheer size and athleticism?
No, he's played really well. So when you look at the combination of him and Jeffrey's a problem by himself regardless of where he lines up, and it's about his skill and it's about how hard he plays as well. But Tavondre's done a good job. He's obviously a factor in the running game, but he's done a decent job with some power rushes because once he gets going vertically, it's just hard to sit down and block a guy, 350 pounds. He had the fumble recovery, kind of the second man strip there a couple weeks ago, then the stiff arm. So you're talking about a big, strong, athletic player who presents problems on the inside part of the defense. So Tavondre's played well, and going back to the rookies, and Brownlee has done a really good job from start to finish at corner. Then they've had to bump him inside a little bit and play some nickel with McCreary being out. So they have a number of good young players who have given them a lot of good plays during the course of the year.
We haven't had a chance to catch up since the back-to-back with Kansas City and Baltimore, and I know two very different games, very competitive against Kansas City and Baltimore. How do you look at that one? Do you look at it as, well, that just wasn't our day, we got to get it out of our minds, because obviously you want to correct those things, but you want to move forward and get momentum for the postseason?
And really, both games, we had opportunities. So going back to the Kansas City game, we kind of had it was 17-16. We get the fourth down stop, and then we're at midfield, and then we go 3 and out, and then we just couldn't garner enough momentum. And then in the end, they just made a few more plays than we did. And the same thing against Baltimore as well. It's 10-2. We have the ball down there in the 3-yard line. We went for it on fourth down, which D'Amico wanted to get points, was the right decision. To try to play aggressively, and we didn't convert it, and we weren't able to keep them off the long field. They hit the explosive play to Mark Andrews, and then it's 17-2, and then it just kind of was hard to catch up. So, say both games, we had our opportunities, which goes back to what D'Amico talked about. Like, this game is just going out there playing good football, executing from start to finish, and I think that'll be the challenge for us here this week.
Nick, I don't know if we've had a chance to talk to you since claiming Deontay Johnson, and I know we talked about the trade deadline, and one of the things that you mentioned, and which was true, is that you made a number of waiver claims. Derek Barnett coming here was huge over the second half of the 2023 season. This one's later than I think any of the others, getting him in week 17 as you go into week 18. I know expectations are different for everybody in this building, and the thought of a guy coming in, what he can learn, what he can do. But what's your thoughts about bringing in Deontay this late into the season, and what do you think he can provide for the team?
Yeah, our philosophy is always just look to take advantage of opportunities when they present themselves. You don't really know when that's going to happen, whether it's week 8, week 12, week 16. So we look at the waiver wire every day. Pro scouting staff does a great job, and then we have discussions about it. We talk about it as a staff. Ultimately, you make a decision. Well, does this make sense or not?
Right.
I think the situation with Tank maybe said, hey, it's an opportunity for us to bring in a good football player, who's a lot of experience. So Deontay's been a productive player in this league for a number of years. A skilled player, even going back to his Toledo days. I mean, this is a player, I actually had the opportunity to work him out, spend the day on campus with him when he was coming out. I think it was the year him and Woodside, I think they came out around the same time. So he's got a good skill set. He's athletic. He's fast. He's got good quickness. He's been productive. So when you get a player this late, obviously you can't teach him everything.
Right.
You just want to try to give him some small doses so he can go out there and actually practice, and then if he has an opportunity to play, go out there and perform at a high level.
Yeah.
It really puts a test on your wide receiver group overall, though. The injury to Tank, and again, that's not something we talked about since the last time we got together. So as a group, what are you thinking here moving forward?
Yeah, no, that's a group that's been taxed here at different points. So we kind of played without Diggs for a period here, played without Tank. Even Nico missed a few games there. But we've talked about this even going back to the beginning of the year. We felt that, the depth in that room was really good, was a strength of the team. Metch has had his opportunities. He's taken advantage of them. Hutch seemingly in each game, when we throw him the ball, he makes a play. So it's about other players getting opportunities. Jay Wayne he was elevated a couple times. So we feel comfortable with the players that are here, add Deontay to that mix. So we'll take 4 or 5 receivers to the game, however it is, and then see if we can go out there and just take advantage of our opportunities when they present themselves.
We've also had injuries at seemingly the nickel position where Jalen's been banged up. Then Jimmy gets banged up. Nick, what can you tell us about Miles Bryant? It's a guy that's, since his days back to Washington, he always felt like a guy when you watched him on the field, he might have been the smallest guy on the field, but it felt like he was a playmaker. Like he was going to make a play no matter what. What can you tell us about Miles and what maybe he can bring to that nickel position when he's there?
Yeah, he's a very smart, experienced, instinctive player, has position versatility. I mean, I think he played, 700, 800 snaps last year in New England between safety, corner, slot corner. So he's taking some snaps there inside the formation. So has good awareness, has a good understanding of how to play football. Here's another player who's made the most of his opportunities in his career, wasn't drafted, but he's a great kid, works really hard, is very smart. He's instinctive, runs well, so he has a good skill set. So he's gone in there. He went in there the other day against Baltimore, logged some snaps. So we'll kind of see what makes the most sense here. Kamari's been in there. Miles was in there. We'll just figure out, who makes the most sense. But we've had multiple players in there, and I think we kind of felt this was a position you're probably going to need multiple players, and that's really kind of come to fruition.
Well, Cade Stover, Johnny and I visited with him a couple of times this year, and recently, as a matter of fact, since the appendectomy recovery, he got out there pretty quick, Nick, and he says he likes playing that fullback, H-back, whatever it is, that extra role because he can move around a lot, and that's a player who spent a lot of training camp just learning how to play tight end.
Yeah, Cade's a smart, tough, versatile, instinctive player. He's improved continually as the year has progressed. The more you give him, the more he can handle, and that's where you always start with kind of a baseline of whoever the player is and then add small doses as you go. But Cade's ability to kind of play multiple spots enhances overall value, and we've talked about this. He's made some plays in the kicking game as well, and you're probably not going to find a tougher player on a football team, than Cade Stover. So glad he's here. He's helped us, in a number of different areas here this season. Looking forward to finishing the year strong with him and what the future holds, for him in our program.
And if you ever want to learn more about beef production, he's your man.
He's the expert. Yeah, he's the expert in that category.
Absolutely. Nick, I don't know if you've ever been completely persuaded, but thinking of Cade made me think of, obviously you had years with the Patriots where you guys looked at players like Julian Edelman, and you're like, I don't really know what we're going to do with him. We'll find something. That dude ends up playing nickel. He played punt return, and he obviously settles in to be one of the best receivers we've ever seen. Have you ever been persuaded by a guy's second sport? Like you see him play football, and you're not totally convinced, but then you see him play a second sport or he's in a different sport, and you're like, man, maybe there's something there. I like the way he plays basketball. Man, he's a wrestler or whatever the case might be. Have you ever been persuaded by a guy because he's had kind of a second sport that really you think can help him?
It's interesting that you bring that up. There's never a direct correlation. Well, you see a player do this in this sport, right, it's going to translate over to the NFL, because the reality is they're all kind of starting from scratch. It's really about their mindset, and then the combination of the player in and of itself, and then the coaching staff, and just the ability to kind of think outside the box a little bit. Fortunate to have been a part of some situations like that going back to Chris Hogan, who was a lacrosse player, ended up being a pretty good receiver for a number of years. Stephen Neal, who was a very accomplished amateur wrestler, didn't play college football, signed him in a practice squad, and then he ended up having an 8-9 year career, and he worked hard, took coaching, got better. So I think if you have a player with the right mindset who's willing to put the time in, you really never know how it's going to turn out. And you're seeing multiple examples throughout the league, even looking at the Chargers, using Matlock, the defensive tackle at fullback.
Right.
Ricard has kind of made that transition, even with the Eagles, with Jordan Mailata, who had a rugby background, wasn't really a football player. Now he's become one of the best left tackles in the league. So it's not always going to work out all the time, but I think if you have an open mind and then just take the individual player and just their mindset, their thought process, how they work, how they approach it, and see if they make some progress along the way, then ultimately you just kind of let nature run its course a little bit.
You ever played lacrosse, Nick?
I've played with my daughters throwing the ball, but I never actually played lacrosse. So it's a great sport. I mean, honestly, I wish I would have learned it when I was a younger
You've been
kid.
good at it.
Yeah,
So
I think you would have been great.
I was too consumed by baseball. I was playing
same.
baseball since I was 6 years old. So I didn't even know what lacrosse was. We actually had it at our high school, and I was trying to figure out what this sport was. But it's a great sport. Honestly, not to get into a lacrosse discussion, but I think what Paul Rabel's done for the sport of lacrosse has been phenomenal. His impact and the way they've grown it, both on the male and female side. I think there's a professional women's lacrosse team that or a league that they're promoting that he started, but his impact on the game has been significant. So had the good fortune of meeting Paul on the way. But I mean, look, it's a tremendous sport, and a couple of my daughters have actually just experimented with it. And I think it's a great sport for all young kids to try if they have the opportunity.
And Jim Brown played it at Syracuse. How about that?
I wish it was a sport that we had here, because that's a sport I would have thought about probably in front of baseball. Because, I mean, I love baseball too. But I get up to Brown, and I had never seen lacrosse, and I see some of the lacrosse players. I'm like, whoa. These guys, a lot of them played football in high school, but then decided to focus on lacrosse.
All the elements, running, change direction, hand-eye coordination.
Hand-eye coordination is amazing. To see what those guys can do with a stick and direct the ball, make people miss in space. I mean, once I saw Hogan sign with you guys, I thought, this is going to be interesting, because I got a feeling he's a pretty good athlete, and it turned out he was a really good athlete.
All right, so there's something called the Scepter, and it's handed out from Good Morning Football, Kyle Brandt, for angry runs. Now, Dameon Pierce won Angry Run of the Year 2 years ago, but this week he just won another Scepter for his kickoff return.
Okay.
Yes, this is breaking news.
Thank you,
Kyle. We saw it in the morning show. But he had that tremendous kickoff return. Didn't go all the way, but he knocked over several people along the way, and it could have been a game-changing play at that point, but he's found a way to, if he gets his hands on the ball, it's going to be exciting, and he's trying to make a difference, even though he doesn't get all the carries.
No, he's shown that over the course of his career. When he gets the ball in his hand, good things can happen, and he's worked really hard, talking about like a skill he necessarily didn't have, but he's worked really hard. Frank has spent a lot of time with him, and there's some nuances that are involved in understanding how the return's blocked and what we're trying to accomplish. But once you get the ball in your hands, then you let your run instincts take over. Damien's hard to tackle. He's got good lower body strength. He's low center of gravity. He's strong with the ball in his hands. And there's been multiple examples, not only with the kickoff return the other day, but even going back to the touchdown run against the Patriots and then the kickoff return last year with the Browns. So it's a skill that he's learned and acquired, and he's embraced it, and he's helped our team in that particular area.
Nick, we talked last week, the week before. You said you guys are starting your draft meetings. How does that work with playoff games? Are guys at playoff games? Are you sending certain guys to playoff games, or see certain teams, or just players that you still have questions about? How you kind of handle the playoff situation for your draft scouts?
Yeah, it's interesting. Sometimes those games are like off limits relative to like the normal scouting protocol. Normally during the season, you get a credential, you be on the sideline for the game. When they're in playoff games, it takes on a little bit different significance. But with the Texas Bowl here in NRG Stadium, so it's an opportunity. Actually, I've seen LSU and Baylor play a couple different points, but it's always good to get another look. You're not necessarily looking for anything new. Maybe just a follow up from something from earlier in the year. So, but as far as specific to the playoff games, there's probably not too much you can glean. Right. From a live look, you're just continuing to gather information. So, but it's creeping up on us. So, I mean, we're going to be at the Senior Bowl before we know it. And then middle of February, we're going to have our next round of draft meetings. So the train keeps moving. There's no question about it.
Johnny was saying warm-ups. Sometimes he sees scouts looking at the players in warm-ups as opposed to, well, in addition to being in the game. And at the combine, this comes up too. You like to watch them milling around and interacting and going through whatever they're going through to get ready.
No, you're just looking for an opportunity to observe the player in a different environment, or maybe there's something. Pre-game's usually interesting too, because you can see how they approach their warm-up. What are they doing? What's their process? Maybe you haven't seen a player catch live, or they're doing a drill where you're actually able to see something a little bit different, or they go back there pre-game and catch punts. So it's always an opportunity to learn and gather more information. So it not necessarily earth-shattering, but it's just more part of the information gathering process.
Okay, now we have a question here. This is a big development
Is this a
in
fan
the building.
question? Okay.
D'Amico, we gave him this situation with the New Year's resolutions.
Don't ask me about New Year's resolutions, because I've never really had any.
He's going to say all 4.
Well, hang on a second.
Okay, all right.
We had to give him a hypothetical here. He has to give up one thing, one of these 4: barbecue, Tex-Mex, pasta, or fish. And he took barbecue, and we couldn't help but thinking this is your influence on him, maybe, Nick. I don't know. So he said
I've seen him work out. He could beat my ass. So, like, whatever he says, like.
He said barbecue because he was trying to, like, all right, I'm trying to watch myself. We both said pasta. We know you can't give up pasta. There's no way.
I'm not a big pasta consumer necessarily. I have it maybe once or twice a week. So our kids love it.
For carbs and things like that.
Yeah.
Well, just a little bit of variation.
Yeah.
You're not giving up fish, so forget about that.
That's staying.
So I have to give up one of those
give up
4?
one.
Yeah.
For you, this is, well, I don't say easy, but.
Probably would give up Tex-Mex,
Okay.
even though I don't eat Tex-Mex. But I guess
So that's easy. I'll give it up. Why not? I'll quit smoking. I don't
we
smoke.
can take it off the
I'm
list.
going to stop drinking. You stop drinking all
My
the
middle
time.
daughter
I'm gonna give it
loves
up again.
ribs, actually. When we go out to dinner and they
Oh,
have
yeah.
ribs, she loves ribs. So
Yeah.
it's great. They all have
What's
different
not to
eating
like?
habits. So.
Yeah.
Terrific.
That's a
Nick,
good
thanks
place
a
for
lot.
ribs.
Good luck this week.
Thanks, fellas.